I'm VJ Hamilton and welcome to the Autoimmune Reset, the place for you to learn how to thrive with autoimmune disease and feel empowered to take steps to transform your health to feel better than ever. You can start making changes today to improve your health. So with every episode, my mission is to share with you simple ways to up-level your diet and lifestyle with key learnings from my own journey reversing autoimmune disease and inspirational stories from those who have reset their autoimmune symptoms and are now thriving in life. I suffered from autoimmune disease for over 25 years and now I live symptom-free, and I wish the same for you as well. So thank you for being here and sharing this time with me. Now let's get started. Hello and welcome to this episode of the Autoimmune Reset podcast. I'm your host, VJ Hamilton. I'm a nutritionist, scientist, and expert in autoimmune disease. And in this podcast, what I really intend to do is to explain things to you in a simple way, because when you have an autoimmune condition or you're living with chronic symptoms on a daily basis, there is so much noise out there. And what I'm hoping is to provide you with information about what could potentially be causing your condition, what you can be doing to support your health. And most of the advice that I offer on this podcast isn't just about things that can help with an autoimmune condition. They can help with your health no matter who you are, because a lot of the things that help with autoimmune disease are going to help just generally as well. I know there is frustration because there is just so much information out there. Should you be taking collagen? Should you be having a probiotic every day? What's the best diet to eat? Is it plant-based? Is it AOP? Is it carnivore? And I get these questions all the time. And if you have any questions that you'd like me to answer on this podcast, then feel free to send me a message and you can ask that and I will clear that up for you and we can just go through the facts, because I'm not here to advise you specifically. I'm just sharing information as I would with a friend, just to help you get a better understanding of what is happening. And that's why today's episode is one that I think you will enjoy, because it's all about whether your detox protocol could be doing you more harm than good. If you look on Instagram or Facebook or just generally, there are so many detox protocols. But what we need to know is, how do we support detox pathways without triggering an autoimmune flare and causing chaos with our hormones? There is a reason that can be an issue if you are just going on one of these detox type diets, because you need to understand that detox isn't just one thing. And actually, when we promote one part of detox, it can make your body more toxic if we are not thinking about the other parts of detoxification as well. And that's what I'm going to be going through with you today and giving you lots of advice on ways that you can support detox naturally and in a way that's going to be right for you. Let's start with this. Detox is a natural ongoing process and your body is wired to do it. But the problem is that most detoxes focus on flushing, which are often through quick fixes like laxative teas, aggressive supplements, or even extreme fasting. And without supporting the actual organs and pathways involved in detox, it can create an issue. And that's especially a concern if you have an autoimmune condition, because when it comes to an autoimmune condition, they are not curable. But for instance, in my own health, I have managed to be in remission for over 9 years. And that's because I have prevented an autoimmune flare. And what can happen is, if you don't get detoxing right, or you promote it and accelerate it in a way that is harmful to your body, it might mean that you go into an autoimmune flare. And for some people, that might be having some digestive issues. For other people, it could be extremely severe, especially if you have something like multiple sclerosis and it affects your nerves, and that could lead to irreparable damage. And you just need to be so careful. When I first became a nutritionist, I knew that I wanted to help people with autoimmune disease. I I've always wanted to help people with autoimmune disease, even when I was younger and I wasn't working as a nutritionist. I was just very passionate about it. I'd lived with autoimmune conditions and I knew what it felt like living with alopecia and psoriasis and how it affected my self-confidence, but also my brother having multiple sclerosis. But the truth is, it's a difficult area to be in because it's not easy and these conditions are complex, and there are probably easier things that I could be doing as a nutritionist. But the truth is, I want to help people with these conditions, and in some way I do find these conditions quite fascinating, the science behind them and how we manage them and how we find the root cause of them. And I always say, if I wasn't a nutritionist, I would be a detective, because one of my joys in life is digging deeper and finding out what is at the cause of something. And that's what I get to do every day with my clients, which I love. But it's particularly important when it comes to detox. And just so you know, from a scientific perspective, detox is often referred to as biotransformation, because you are taking a toxin and you are transforming it, and then you are excreting it from the body. And that's what the process is. So let's break down the science simply. When it comes to detoxification, you have phase 1 detoxification, which mainly happens in the liver. And that involves breaking down toxins into intermediate metabolites. This is often making them more reactive and potentially more harmful. And I've spoken a lot about oxidative stress on previous episodes. And oxidative stress, which is always a bit of a mouthful to say, but is a process in the body where you have more free radicals than antioxidants. And free radicals can be very damaging. And that's what is created in this first phase of detox. And there is a reason for that, because there is this phase 2. And you create these metabolites so that they are in the right structure, or the compound is in the correct formation to go through phase 2. When we're thinking about phase 1 detoxification, the toxins that would go through this phase are things like caffeine, alcohol, medications, and any environmental toxins. You then have phase 2, which is where the body packages up those metabolites using nutrients. And there are various different ways that you can convert those metabolites through the phase 2 pathway. And that can be done by adding on amino acids. So the amino acids that you get from proteins. It can be done through sulfur. It can be done through combining them with antioxidants and neutralizing them. So there are various different pathways, and if you are deficient in, for example, sulfur, or you have a protein deficiency, then your phase 2 won't work as effectively, because you need these nutrients for phase 2. As you can imagine, if you're deficient in protein, but you are promoting phase 1 detox, you're going to have a buildup of those very reactive metabolites in the middle, and they are going to be very reactive in your body. So regardless of any external toxins, you could become toxic because you have promoted phase 1, but your phase 2 isn't able to function as it should. And then you have phase 3, which isn't really a phase, but I think we should always consider 3 phases when it comes to detox. And phase 3 is where you eliminate them either through bile, through sweat, through your urine, or through bowel movements. So as I said, the vital part of your understanding is that phase 1 can be upregulated. And when that happens, for example, if you have lots of green juices or you take certain supplements, but you don't support phase 2 or phase 3, then you're creating more toxicity in the short term. And that could potentially trigger flares. It can cause hormone disruptions. It can cause skin breakouts, migraines, anxiety, gut issues. And that's just to name a few. So it's important to understand this concept. So now let's talk about the gut, because you cannot talk about detox without talking about the gut. And your liver produces bile, which is not just for fat digestion, it also is how toxins leave your body. That bile gets dumped into your intestines through your gallbladder, and if your gut is sluggish, inflamed, or constipated, then you actually reabsorb the toxins through something called enterohepatic recirculation. And this is why gut health is a non-negotiable for detox and autoimmunity. And poor bile flow is common in those with hypothyroidism, Hashimoto's, and estrogen dominance. And it can lead to you feeling heavy, bloated, nauseous, and toxic. And I know a lot of my clients will say that they just feel that something isn't right when they have an issue with bile production or they have something going on with their gallbladder, because it can just leave you feeling that way. When I run stool tests, I will look for whether my clients have fat in their stool, and that can be a sign that they are not producing bile or that their digestive system is not working correctly, because, as I said, bile is important for fat digestion, and that can be a giveaway that potentially there is something going on with their gallbladder or bile production. So let's go through a few signs that your detox pathways, especially your liver, might be struggling. The first is that you have a lot of chemical sensitivity. So if you're walking into a pharmacy or somewhere that sells perfume and you feel that it's just too much for you and you get an immediate reaction to it, or if somebody is smoking in front of you and you just feel that it's just too much and overwhelming for your body, then that may be a sign that you have chemical sensitivity. For some people, it's even more obvious. They might go into a room where there's candles burning and their sinuses get blocked up or their skin feels itchy. So that's certainly something to look at, because the more chemically sensitive you are, the more likely it is that there is something going on with your detox pathways. The next is skin issues, which I see a lot in my clinic. And skin issues like eczema or acne or even sudden skin flares could be linked to detoxification. Then you have headaches or migraines. Again, I see this a lot in my clinic, and it's something that I used to be living with on a routine basis. And this can be linked to detox as well, because if you have high toxicity in the body, it can cause issues with the neurons, and migraines are linked to neurons through the trigeminal nerve, which can be stimulated and cause those pain sensations that people will get with migraines. There are other types of migraines as well. That is certainly a sign that I see. Hormonal symptoms like PMS, heavy periods, and breast tenderness might be a sign of estrogen dominance, and that can certainly be a factor when it comes to having an issue with your detoxification, because you detox your hormones as well. And if you're not detoxing estrogen efficiently, then it could potentially become problematic. Another sign is waking up at about 2 to 4 a.m. That can be linked to issues going on with your liver, and fatigue that just doesn't shift. You might wake up feeling unrefreshed, or you might just feel very tired during the daytime. You might also be bloated or have a sluggish digestion, and you can check that by checking your colon transit time. And I'll put a link to an article that I wrote about that recently, about the 5 ways that you can check your gut health at home without doing any type of testing. And it is just a good thing for you to be doing on a routine basis, just to make sure that your gut health is optimal. And if it's not, then you know that you need to explore things further, either through going to your doctor, or you can do stool testing. And then mood swings, irritability, and feeling anxious is also signs that your detox system might not be working effectively. Now, this is the really important part if you're dealing with an autoimmune condition or you have hormonal imbalance, because your liver's detox enzymes, especially those in phase 1 and phase 2, can be induced, so sped up, or inhibited, slowed down by certain foods, herbs, medications, and even environmental exposures. And this is how a detox can actually cause more harm than good. If one phase is upregulated without the other one being supported, you can end up in what I call a detox limbo, where toxins are partially processed but not cleared. And that can lead to inflammation, flares, fatigue, and complete hormonal chaos, to be honest. So let's break it down. We have the phase 1 inducers, and they increase the enzyme activity. These are the foods that we know quite well, like cruciferous vegetables, broccoli, cabbage, and kale. Actually, alcohol causes phase 1 to speed up. St. John's wort causes phase 1 to speed up. Cigarette smoke actually causes phase 1 to speed up. And green tea contains catechins that modulate phase 1 enzymes. And that is why I love matcha, because matcha helps support both pathways. And you can't go wrong if you are having something that helps to promote both pathways. It's when there is this imbalance that there is an issue. And as much as we can control this through food, knowing your genetics is pretty key to this, because you can test some of the genes that are responsible for phase 1 and phase 2 detoxification. And I'll run a detoxification genetic panel with my clients where I feel that this is one of the reasons that they have autoimmune symptoms or they have developed an autoimmune condition. And often we find that they have a lot of genetic variations in their genes. And if you'd like to find out more about the genetic testing that I offer, then feel free to get in touch. You can send me a DM on Instagram at the Autoimmunity Nutritionist, or you can head over to my website and contact me on there as well. And you will find all the links to that in the show notes. Now, we also have phase 1 inhibitors, and these slow down the activity of phase 1. And what I find with my clients and also in my own health is that most people with autoimmune conditions that I work with anyway seem to have a very fast phase 1 and a very slow phase 2 for whatever reason. And as I said, genetics can be a part of that. So for me and my clients who have this issue, we want to be thinking about the foods that help to slow phase 1 down. So the phase 1 inhibitors. One of the foods that can help slow phase 1 down is parsley. And it's something that I have started bringing into my diet on a much more regular basis because I feel like I can tell it's helping me. And especially a tabbouleh salad. I did a Moroccan night at the beginning of the year, and I made a tabbouleh salad, and I remembered that I loved this salad, and even to the point that I was talking to a friend who I was traveling in Australia with when I was in my early 20s, and we used to get a falafel wrap all the time. And well, I got a falafel wrap. I think my friend just got a chicken wrap. I was vegetarian at the time. And one of the things that I loved about the wrap was the tabbouleh. I must have just known that it was good for me. Because it's normally got couscous in it, which has gluten, I haven't really bought it or eaten it since. And I just thought, actually, I'm just going to make it for this Moroccan night. And I cut up all this parsley, put mint in it as well, and lemon juice. And it was just delicious. And I used buckwheat rather than couscous or anything with gluten in it. And you can use quinoa as well. But it was delicious. And I think my body needs parsley, and parsley inhibits that phase 1. So it slows it down, and that's what my body needs. And the other thing that can help with that is grapefruit. It can really slow down phase 1. And you may know if you are taking certain medications to avoid grapefruit. And it's because it has this impact on phase 1. And really what I'm talking to you about today, even though we're talking about nutrients, is pharmacology. And I studied pharmacology at university, and I was always really fascinated by how the drugs worked. And I still remember things about paracetamol now, and that you have to take a certain amount of paracetamol for it to be effective. And I don't know why, you just always remember certain things. When I see people taking paracetamol and they just take one paracetamol when, the guidelines are take 2, I always think, you have to have a certain level of paracetamol for that to work appropriately. And this is going back years, so I might be remembering it incorrectly. But it's just so fascinating that really what we're talking about here is the way drugs work. And that's why if you are taking certain medication, actually you need to avoid grapefruit because it can have such an impact on phase 1. But certain medications can also slow down phase 1, including antidepressants and antifungals. And I know a lot of clients who do well with antifungals, and you've got to question, is it because of the candida or is it because it's having this effect in the body? And then high doses of curcumin can also inhibit some of these enzymes which are responsible for phase 1. Then we have phase 2, and this is where we need to support increasing phase 2. So the phase 2 inducers, because a lot of people will have a very sluggish phase 2. So we need to get these metabolites out of the body. So some of the foods which are really important for phase 2 include broccoli sprouts. They're high in sulforaphane and they're excellent for glutathione production. So they're a really great addition to your diet. You can grow broccoli sprouts yourself, but you can also add broccoli sprout powder. And it's just a nice addition to support detoxification if you don't have any sensitivities to it. Garlic and onions are also really important because they're sulfur rich. And then any sulfur rich foods like eggs or greens or radishes. And radishes is another food that I feel like my body has something like that. And I can just tell I need it. And, you might think radishes don't really taste of much, but I just, when I eat them, I can tell that my body needs them. This could be all in my head, but I think we have to work with what we're actually feeling. And I'm getting to that point now where I feel like I just know what my body needs. And sometimes I don't give it everything it needs. I try my best. But sometimes I just need a green juice, or sometimes I feel like, I need a piece of chicken. I can just tell, dependent on how I'm feeling, what my body needs at that moment in time. And then this is one that everybody forgets, amino acids. Protein is detox. And we focus so much on the green juices and all these things that are helpful. But if we don't have amino acids such as glycine, taurine, methionine, we're not going to be able to support that part of detoxification. So you could do a long juice fast and not have sufficient protein. And what's your body going to do? It's going to find the protein. And that could mean breaking down your muscles in order to get that protein. So that is why I would never promote a juice fast for an extended period of time. And to be honest, it's just not something that I promote at all. I think juices have a place in the diet because they are such a great way to get micronutrients, especially if you are compromised from a gut perspective. But when it comes to doing extended juice fasts, that is just not for me at all, I'm afraid. If you've had good results with it, then that's great. As I said, we all know our own bodies, but generally I find you need the protein for phase 2, especially if you have genetics like me. And then there's the B vitamins, especially B6, B12 and folate. And they are the vitamins that I see my clients and I was deficient in as well. And this was probably a major factor in my own autoimmune condition because I was deficient in so many of these nutrients, and because I didn't really understand these pathways at that moment in time, and I didn't know my own genetics either. There's also NAC, which is a popular supplement, N-acetylcysteine, and that's a glutathione precursor, so that can be extremely important for supporting phase 2. And green tea also plays a role here because the catechins also help to upregulate glucuronidation and glutathione conjugation, which are both key phase 2 pathways, and they can support that detoxification. So yes, green tea supports both phase 1 and phase 2, which makes it a gentle yet effective ally in detoxification, especially for those with hormonal imbalances or autoimmune conditions. So if you haven't tried a matcha tea yet, I recommend you to do so. And I'll put a link to my health shop if you would like to see the matcha that I like to use. I've got a few actually that I incorporate on a daily basis now that I have switched from my coffee, and yeah, I just love it. I mean, as with anything, you don't need to go crazy with it and have loads with it, but just a couple of matcha teas a day, and I'll have a couple of green teas, and then that's good for me. I'll have them all before lunchtime, so I'm not affected by the caffeine. But because there's L-theanine in it as well, which helps to calm the nervous system, I find a lot of people do well with matcha and green tea, even though there is caffeine in it. So here's where people go wrong. As I said, they stimulate phase 1, maybe with lots of raw cruciferous veg or green powders or aggressive detox supplements, but they don't support phase 2 or phase 3, so that elimination phase. And that's like running a washing machine with no rinse or drain cycle. And for those of us with an autoimmune condition, this can lead to a buildup of those reactive intermediates that your body can't clear fast enough. And that's when symptoms spike. So any detox strategy has to be balanced. It has to nourish all 3 phases and start with gentle liver and gut support, not this aggressive flushing. We often think of detox as something we do to clear out external toxins like pollution, pesticides, alcohol, or processed foods. But the truth is, even if you live on a mountain, you grow your own food and use only organic skincare, your body would still need to detox. And why is that? Well, that's because your body is constantly producing internal waste products as a natural byproduct of metabolism, especially hormone metabolism. So let's take a few key examples here. First, there's estrogen. Your body breaks it down and metabolizes it through the liver. Certain metabolites are protective, and that is tested for when I run a Dutch Plus with my clients, while others are pro-inflammatory. And if detox pathways aren't efficient, the more inflammatory estrogen metabolites can build up and recirculate, and that increases the risk of estrogen dominance and those symptoms like PMS, heavy periods, breast tenderness, or even endometriosis. Then you have the thyroid hormones, and T4, that inactive thyroid hormone, or mostly inactive thyroid hormone, needs to be converted into the active form T3 in the liver and your gut. If your liver is sluggish or your gut bacteria are out of balance, then this conversion can drop, leaving you with low T3 and symptoms like fatigue, hair thinning, brain fog, or poor mood, even when your TSH is normal. I've been loving running the Thyroid Revival, which is my program, which is all about supporting thyroid health. It includes a full meal plan, supplement plan, and then lots of guidance on how to restore your thyroid function without just focusing on your thyroid. And in the program, I focus on the thyroid, the gut, the liver, and the adrenal glands, because they are also vital when it comes to your thyroid hormones. So if you'd like to find out more about that, I will put the link in the show notes as well. It's a great program. It runs over 3 months and it starts with a 2-hour workshop. And I just love to see more people over there. You will have access to an app. You will have access to a supportive community, and you can ask me any questions over there. So if you'd like to find out more, I will put the link to that in the show notes, and I'd love to see a few of you over there. Then we have cortisol and other stress hormones, and these can also be broken down and cleared out by the liver. And when this process is impaired, it can create a feedback loop of heightened stress, disrupted sleep, and further inflammation. So yes, your own body creates toxins that need to be processed and cleared every single day. If your detox pathways, especially in the liver and gut, aren't supported properly, those internal toxins build up, and this can lead to estrogen dominance, low free T3 and a sluggish thyroid function, increased inflammatory load, poor stress resilience, which means that you just are unable to cope with stress on a daily basis. And I find that this is happening to a lot of my clients. They suddenly feel like they are overwhelmed. They can't deal with the things that they used to be able to deal with. And we need to work on that. And by supporting your detox pathways and your liver, it can make such a big difference. For many of the people listening, it can also lead to an autoimmune flare, because we know toxins can tip the balance when it comes to inflammation as well. So this is why a true reset isn't just about juicing or clean eating. It's about helping your body keep up with its own internal housekeeping. So hormones are balanced, inflammation stays in check, and your immune system isn't constantly being triggered by leftover metabolic byproducts. So what should you do? This is where a guided whole body approach makes a huge difference. And I am hosting a free challenge the Spring Juice Reset, which is going to be starting on the 7th of April in my group, the Autoimmune Forum. And I've designed this specifically for people who have autoimmune conditions or chronic fatigue. And the reset will focus on gut support, liver and bile flow, nervous system regulation, and you will get 5 nutrient-rich juices which are going to help with detox, but also help with other systems in your body, including your liver, your skin, your hormones, your gut health, and your immune system. And because it is a challenge, there will be prizes up for grabs. For anybody that's done one of my challenges before, you will know that. And you can win prizes just by being involved. And even if you feel that you don't want to be involved, but you would still like the information, you can still join. I just like to make it fun, and there will be some prizes available for those who are the most involved and the most interactive in the group. So I would love to see you over there. I will put the link to my group, the Autoimmune Forum, in the show notes. You can get involved from the 7th of April. If you're listening to this in the future, it is the 7th of April 2025, but I'm sure if you pop over to the group, you will find recordings of the challenge over there. So the next time someone tells you to do a 3-day detox with cayenne pepper and lemon juice, take a pause, because detoxification is powerful and it needs to be done intentionally, especially when you're managing autoimmunity. Support your gut, support your liver, understand the phases, and most of all, don't ignore the signs your body is giving you. If you want to join the Spring Juice Reset, head to the link in the show notes or my Instagram bio at the Autoimmunity Nutritionist. We start on the 7th of April, so I hope to see you there. If not, have a fantastic rest of your week, and I'll speak to you soon. Take care. Thank you very much for joining me today on the Autoimmune Reset. I really hope you enjoyed the discussion, and be sure to subscribe to the podcast so that you never miss an episode. And if you liked it, I would hugely appreciate a review on iTunes, as it helps me understand what you like about the podcast and to help share the information with more people. I'm excited to speak to you next time, and remember, you have the power to take the reins on your health. So keep the faith and celebrate the small wins. Until next time.